talking all about EF Ultimate Break, the trip that I went on, the pros and cons, my favorite parts of the trip, what it's like, what to expect, and also my tips. I think this video is going to be super helpful. The tips that I'm sharing are not going to be related specifically to my trip. Yes, of course, I'll talk about my experience, but I feel like whether you're going on that Europe trip or on one of their other hundreds and hundreds of trip options, these tips will help because I'm going to kind of talk about the process, the company, what it was like in my experience. If you want to feel like you're on the trip with me and see a day-by-day itinerary, check out the vlog I posted. I vlogged every day of our trip, 11 days, like I said, in London, Paris, and Barcelona. So if you want to see what the trip is actually like while I'm on it and all that we did and all that we saw, or you just want a super fun travel vlog, I'm really proud of this video, so definitely go check it out. I do want to put a disclaimer that EF Ultimate Break did send me on this trip for content purposes, to create content to share about this trip with you guys, and they gave a discount for my brother. I had first heard about EF maybe like 4 years ago when I saw some other influencers go on the trip, and I thought it was just the coolest thing ever. And so to be able to go on this trip and experience Europe in this way was such a blessing. Yes, they did help me go along, but all these thoughts and opinions are my own, and they're not paying me to say anything. They didn't give me a script for this video at all. They really were just like, go on the trip and share your experiences. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I also have a $100 off coupon code for you guys. So if you want $100 off your next trip, you can use code Hannah100. I'll put the link in the description box as well. You can go and scroll all the amazing trips to all the amazing countries, and also get $100 off with that code. So if you haven't heard of EF Ultimate Break, let me introduce you. It is seriously the best way to travel for anyone ages 18 to 35. It is group travel, so you're doing most of the things together. Again, I'll speak on this in a little bit. I feel like sometimes that can be intimidating, but actually it made it super fun. And I feel like I would have had a very different trip if this was just me and my brother taking on Europe versus going with EF. Pros. Let's start with the pros of EF Ultimate Break and this trip. Like I said, 11 days, 3 countries. It basically was 2.5 days in each city. Because we had 2 long travel days and then 2 smaller travel days in the trip to get from London to Paris and then to get from Paris to Barcelona. The first pro is everything is pre-planned. When you book this trip, your flights are included, some of your meals, actually a lot of meals. I'll go over that in a second. But you can pay for excursions beforehand, or you can pay for optionals and add-ons while you're there with your tour guide. But seriously, we arrived and all of us in the group after our first day were like, we don't even have to think. We're just getting shown around London. We're taken to dinner. The first dinner, our intro dinner was all prepaid in the trip. We didn't even have to bring out a credit card. Like, it was so easy. You just follow your tour guide who, as I've heard from other tours too, they're all so good. Ours was no exception. And so like, seriously, we got to London. He goes, here's your hotel room. Here's your Metro Underground card. I'm going to show you guys how to use this when we all go to dinner and we go out later for our first tour, so don't worry about that. Like, from the moment we got with our tour group to the moment we left, it was seamless. It was stress-free. You don't have to worry about, oh, do I have my tickets for the Broadway show today? Do I have my tickets for Versailles ready? Like, your guide takes care of all of that. My second pro is you have such a great, knowledgeable tour guide on your trip. We also met another tour guide on ours, so I could kind of see that the vibes were very similar, and I think just all EF tour guides, from what I've heard from friends who've gone on trips too, are so good. Like I said, we had Mario. Shout out to Mario. He lived in Barcelona and obviously had done all these other trips. He spoke 6 languages, so he was very great at, conversing and getting us around, even though none of us on the trip spoke like French. So that was great to have in Paris. And like I said, he was just so on top of it, would help us get on and off the underground subway train stations. He would help us, make sure we knew how to go through security on the train from London to Paris, made sure that our hotel rooms were all good, that we could get checked in, that, just everything was taken care of. Or if we had free time, he would give us so many of his favorite places, his favorite recommendations, which we did and tried and loved. So you have an expert with you the entire trip. He stayed with us from when we landed in London to when we departed in Barcelona. But then you also have specialized tour guides in each city that actually give you historical tours of different areas. So we had one who gave us a great walking tour in London. We had 2 in Paris, one for just an overall Paris bus tour and walking tour, and then one for Versailles. And then we had a third in Barcelona. you at least get one tour of the city that's included in your trip where you don't have to pay anything extra for it. So that's great. You can get kind of a feel for your surroundings, figure out what you need. And all the tour guides we had, along with Mario, were so knowledgeable, so great, really easy and to listen to and super fun. Another pro is you are never alone. So you can be alone. Obviously, there's free time. You can go out on your own if you're traveling with someone. Like me and my brother would go out by ourselves a few times and take content or grab food or try a bakery we wanted to try. But a lot of people on the trip, actually, a lot of friends that we hung out with traveled solo, which was cool to see. So literally they didn't know anyone else on the trip till they showed up. And literally the first day, it was very easy to make friends and talk to people. Everyone was super chatty, you know, asking where you're from, what you do, have you ever been to these cities before? And they said at the end of the trip, they were like, I thought I was going to be alone a lot more on this solo travel trip, but I actually didn't have to be. I didn't want to be. I just, once you make friends on the trip, you want to do things with them. And so really you are with your group if you want to be the whole trip, which is kind of how I was. I was either with my brother or with the friends in my group the whole trip. Even sometimes when like my brother was tired or not feeling well, like he could stay back at the hotel and I didn't have to stay back with him like I would if it was just both of us traveling. I felt comfortable going with friends in the group by myself, went out clubbing with the group one night. Like it was and felt very, very safe. And I feel like you wouldn't have that experience if you were traveling by yourself all the time. The last pro is we saw so much in a short amount of time. I had never been to Europe before. And so I knew that I wanted to see a ton. And I feel like in each country, we saw the big things. So these trips are perfect if like you've never been to the country before and you want an overview of it, you want to experience the culture here and there, and you want to see kind of the big monuments. Like that is how I explain my trip. It's like you saw the most that you can see in as little time as possible. So cons, because it's very fast paced, there are some like little things. Like I wanted to go to a specific museum in Paris and really just didn't have time because also on our free days, I signed up for all the optionals pretty much. I think there was only 2 on the whole trip that I did not sign up for. And these are optionals that you get introduced to through your tour guide. So when you book the trip, these aren't even listed yet. It's when you get in contact with your tour guide. He offers a list of all these other things. Like in London, we saw Wicked. In Paris, we saw the cabaret show. In Barcelona, there was a flamenco dancing show. There was a paella cooking class. Like I did most of those and I'm glad I did because I, again, wanted to see as much as possible, wanted to do as much as possible, experience as much as I could, but I would probably recommend not doing all of them just because I was very tired and it was so fast paced. And because I had all these optionals, there actually was very little free time that I had each day, maybe only a handful of hours. I didn't nap any of the days. I think some people were able to take a nap here and there, but I was pretty go. Or when I did have a little bit of extra time or like early in the mornings, I was trying to get some work done or like edit content. So I feel like it was so fast paced in a great way where I saw so much, but also part of me is like, okay, maybe next time I'll be more selective with the add-ons and additional things during my free days because, you know, sometimes you just want to sit at a restaurant for a while or sit at a cafe or just, you know, sleep in a little bit later. So keep that in mind. Okay, another con, I didn't experience this because I got to room with my brother, but if you are traveling solo, I could see a con being rooming with a stranger just because you have no idea who you're going to be with. A few of our friends who were traveling solo got placed together and it worked out great. They became friends, were roommates, it worked out great. And then another friend who solo traveled, a few girls I knew upgraded and paid more to have their own room and they enjoyed that. So if you're not going with a friend or family member and you're traveling by yourself, maybe just think about upgrading your room to be by yourself unless you know that you're totally fine getting whoever as a roommate. The other con that's, you know, not really a con, but just something I kind of took note of is because we only had really 2.5 days in each city, we had to adjust to different cultures very quickly. The culture in London was very different than the culture in Paris, very different than the culture in Barcelona, and 3 different languages. Turns out most people in Paris speak, pretty much everyone in Paris speaks English. And so we just learned a few customary things that Mario helped us with to kind of be equated to the culture there. But then it was kind of weird because as soon as we got used to Paris and like the public transportation there or the layout there, getting around, as soon as we got used to the culture and kind of like how to get around in Paris, the next day we were leaving to Barcelona. So it was just kind of funny how like as soon as you get acquainted when you're only in a city for 2.5 days, you're changing quickly and it's kind of interesting to go to different languages and different cultures that fast. Okay, so now we're going to talk about my favorite parts of the trip, starting with like the actual stuff we did. Having the tour guides in each city that were so knowledgeable were amazing. I would not have taken away as many fun facts and as much history as I did if I hadn't gone with EF and hadn't had these dedicated tour guides. Whether you enjoy history or not, I promise you're going to want to know some of the history of where you're going because it's just amazing, especially in a place like Europe that's so much older than America. It's really cool to learn about the history and, you know, kind of think back. I kind of had to go back to my high school history lessons a few times. So the favorite add-ons that I did were Versailles in France, the Cabaret show in France. It's all in the vlog. And then also the paella cooking class in Barcelona. I also enjoyed seeing Wicked in London. I had seen Wicked before, but that was fun to see again too. I wasn't expecting, honestly guys, I was not expecting to love the group travel as much as I did. Like I said, had done a few group travel trips in college, but this one I was like, okay, I'm going to go with my brother. We're going to make great memories. But I wasn't too worried. I was just like, you know what? It is what it is, whether we make friends or don't. I had such a good time with the people we met on our trip. Everyone was so nice. Everyone, like I said, was so helpful. I felt so safe, especially when, you know, I didn't have my brother around and we were out at night or whatever. People were so funny. I laughed so much and it was such a great time. Like literally feel like I've made these friends and it was sad to say goodbye to them at the end of the trip. So if you're worried about group travel, I would say like take a friend with you so you know you have someone, but also don't be afraid because it was such a great time and it's helpful because instead of you like and one other person trying to tackle this new country and this new city and this new culture, you're experiencing all these new things with other people who haven't experienced them before. And so, you know, you have inside jokes and it's fun and it's not as intimidating to walk into somewhere and, you know, try to order off the menu because you're with other people that, you know, are Americans and, well, Charlotte was Canadian, but you know, who are kind of used to the same culture as you. Also, guys, I feel like I was expecting to spend a lot more money on the trip than I did. One, a lot of the meals, which I'll get into which meals were included and which ones were not in a second, but a lot of the meals were included, like, and a lot of them also came with alcohol included, like wine at dinner. And so that was crazy to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, this, you know, dinner would have cost me so much more back here in Nashville with all this wine and, you know, 3 courses. And then also, just we didn't have a ton of time for shopping, so I only bought a few souvenirs here and there, but honestly saved me money, so that's very helpful. So breakfast for us was provided at the hotel every day and was delicious, like way better than any continental included breakfast I had in the States. The breakfasts were some of my favorite meals at the 3 hotels. Each country, each hotel, delicious, included breakfast. And then we did have a few lunches. Most of the times lunch was not included, but there was that one day Mario surprised us with baguettes and sandwiches. We can make our own sandwich in front of the Eiffel Tower. Or if you had like an add-on like the paella cooking class, obviously it was included that we could eat the paella after we learned how to cook it. So that was like a lunch that was an add-on. Okay, and then a few dinners. So like our first dinner there, and then obviously our farewell dinner. And then a lot of the optionals for like the cabaret show, dinner was included with the added price. Barcelona, we had like a very nice dinner and that was like our club night. So if you added this excursion, which was like $60-ish total, maybe $70 total, that included dinner with like unlimited sangria. We had like free shots. They had all this included food and alcohol along with the price to get into the club for like $70, which again, like a night out in Nashville with that nice of a dinner and drinks and all of that would have been over $100. Obviously, shopping or souvenirs, that's not included. Also not included is taxis or Ubers, but I only took 2 Ubers, like 1 Uber, 1 taxi, maybe 3. 2 taxis and an Uber the whole 11 days because you get a card to use their public transit system in each country. Mario, our tour guide, showed us how to use it and then gave us the app where you literally just plug in where you want to go. It tells you exactly what trains to get on or where to walk to or what bus to get on. So we were able to get around the city very easy using public transit, so saved a lot of money there. Also tipping your main tour guides, like we tipped Mario at the end of the trip, and EF Ultimate Break recommends how much to tip. And then tipping other guides. So like we did have transportation included from the airports and like the train station and stuff. So all of our travel transportation was included, which was great because you know how expensive Ubers and stuff from and to airports can get. So that was included. They have a driver come pick you up and drop you off at those places. But then you have like the tour guides, the walking tours, the history tours. You would just give them a couple euros at the end of the tour. So I would recommend to get cash. Now moving on to tips. Tips for EF Ultimate Break. You actually do need some cash in the local currency. We had to get pounds and euros to tip some tour guides. And I feel like I was often just looking for an ATM. So at the beginning of your trip, they say don't do it at the airport, but find an ATM or a currency exchange place and get some cash in the local currency so you have it for tips and things here and there. The next tip, kind of for packing, pack layers. And especially if you're going places like I did where the temperature was slightly different, between London, Paris, and then Barcelona. So I really needed like a winter coat and also shorts and a t-shirt. So you've heard me say, I wish I would have packed a heavier coat because I did get a little bit sick because I got cold. But just bring like the extremes and then layers for in the middle as well. Obviously, this is dependent on where you go and the season as well. Portable chargers. I took one with me every time I left the hotel. So important because especially if you're going to veer off from the group or have some free time, you want to be able to get back to your hotel and you need navigation on your phone for that. Do that. I also would recommend getting a plan or having if you're traveling with a +1, have them have an international plan just so that, again, if you get lost, you can get around and have data usage or be able to call people, all of that. We all used a WhatsApp group chat. Everyone in our group and our tour director, Mario, was all in a WhatsApp group chat. So we were able to communicate there very easily. Okay, purses, bring a purse or some kind of, fanny pack, something like that, belt bag that cannot be easy to open. Like don't bring something with a zipper or like something that pickpocketers basically can't get into easily. We were told London, there's pickpocketers. Paris, it gets a little bit worse. And then Barcelona is the worst for pickpocketing. That's what we were told. So seriously, we were being so careful with our phones, not putting our phones in our back pockets. It's just, again, not something that I don't think about as much here in Nashville on the day-to-day. So make sure that you're bringing a purse that's pickpocket safe and just be aware of your surroundings. No one on our trip, though, thank God, got anything stolen. So that was great. Pack snacks for yourself because on travel days, sometimes we would leave early in the morning and I didn't feel like eating breakfast at the hotel, but I knew I'd want something on the plane or on the train. So I would just bring a little bar with me. We packed 2 boxes of bars between me and my brother. And we're like, okay, these are definitely going to last us the whole trip. It lasted us the first 4 days and then all of them were eaten. And we, it's harder to grocery shop in a place where you don't always know what the food is. It was hard to find time to go get snacks. So highly recommend bringing snacks and just having one on you because some days we didn't eat lunch till 3 p.m., but we ate breakfast at 7 a.m. So, there's just you never know when you're going to get hungry or when you're going to have time to eat since you are group traveling. Okay, another travel thing is if you can upgrade for extra legroom on the flight, do that. Our way there, we had a red eye and no extra legroom, and because of some kids and just circumstances, we did not sleep on the red eye very long at all. But on the flight back, we upgraded, I think it was $80 each to have extra leg room. And the flight was about 7-8 hours. And it was so nice. My brother and I were like, yeah, it's worth the money increase. So obviously, if you want to fly business class, first class, that is a lot of extra upgrades, but just upgrade the extra leg room to sit in an exit row or something. And it is worth it. Pack and wear comfy walking shoes, at least on our trip. It was a low activity trip. We didn't do anything crazy like hiking or whitewater rafting or, paddle boarding. It was the only activity was walking, but we walked 15,000 to 20,000 steps every single day. There was not one day that I didn't get over 12,000 steps for 11 days straight. So prepare for your trip by doing a lot of walking. I wore my New Balance tennis shoes a lot. I also brought some boots and some sandals for Barcelona, and then also some loafers. Majority of whenever we had a walking tour, I knew we were going to be out all day, I wore my sneakers and my feet really were fine. I was very thankful that, I don't know if it's because of the shoes or because I walk a lot in my day-to-day. Felt like I was fine, but I know a lot of people on the trip, their feet started hurting, halfway through, pop an Advil here and there, and just something to keep in mind, bringing your comfiest shoes. And then my last tip is actually, you don't need to plan too much before you go. I was getting so many amazing recommendations from you guys on Instagram and from friends who had been to Europe, and I was writing all them down. I'm like, okay, maybe we'll have a few hours on this free day to do this and do this. And truth be told, we did not have the time to do all these added recommendations because EF does such a good job at planning so much for you to do and so much is happening on the trip that honestly, when you have a free hour, you just kind of want to rest or sit and, you know, call someone back home or whatever it may be. So actually, if you're like, oh my gosh, I leave for a trip in a month and I don't have anything planned, you're fine. Like, your tour guide will help you when you're there. If you have free time and you want to do something, there's so many recommendations there. Other people on the trip are doing stuff. You can tag along with them. Like, you really do not need to plan other excursions for this trip unless you are dying to do something that you know isn't included. That is my overall review and tips for EF Ultimate Break. I would 100% do another trip. I think it's so fun, especially with like the age group and just the types of activities we did. They were all right up my alley and I loved them. Seriously, gonna treasure this trip so much. Again, if you want to see a day-by-day itinerary and kind of what the trip looks like, what the hotel rooms look like, you can check out my vlog. And I hope this was helpful. If you're going on a trip soon with the EF Ultimate Break, tell me which one you're going on in the description box or one that you're wanting to go on. That's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I love you all so much. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.